Rugby World Rankings, folks. Six Nations is done. 20th of March is the latest date for the updated World Rankings. How are things looking now that the Six Nations in the bag, plus the European Rugby Championship, that kind of tier 2 competition in Europe? We'll go through them. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how fair or not it is and who's maybe being a little bit hard done by, plus some of the upcoming rugby we can all look forward to now that the Six Nations, sad but true, is all done. Ireland went into the Six Nations number 1, they get a grand slam. They finish number 1, can't go any higher. They did increase their points totals. They didn't get anything from England because the points gap was too big between them and England. But they finished the tournament with a net positive, of course, because they won all their games, up from 90.63 to 91.82. So, flying high, basically, and quite rightly so after a pretty cracking campaign. France came in at number 2. They finish at number 2. Believe it or not, they also finish up despite their loss to Ireland. So they're up from 90.01 to 90.47. So a very marginal gain for the French, but they are higher up than when they came into the competition. So happy days for those two sides. They both look like pretty classy outfits. New Zealand and South Africa obviously still 3 and 4. No games being played, so nothing doing with those, so they didn't get past and nobody dropped below them. Then Scotland is one of your gainers. Like, they didn't gain anything in that most recent victory over Italy because, again, the points gap was too much. But they did gain overall from the Six Nations. They came in 6th and finish up in 5th, which I guess is kind of fair because they were the 3rd ranked team in the Six Nations. So up from 81.55 to 82.77 overall. Net positive for the Scots. I mean, I think, was it Gregor Townsend that basically said, yeah, we're not up to Ireland and France yet, but we're still kind of there or thereabouts. So that's kind of reflected in the Rugby World Rankings as well, right? Because there's a big gap between 4 and 5. England, one of the net kind of losers across the Six Nations. They came in 5th and they dropped below the Scots into 6th. They didn't lose anything again against Ireland, but 80.366 or 83.66 down to 81.12. Still a bit of rebuilding operation going on in England, so I wouldn't say it's the end of the world. They certainly showed some heart in that loss to the Irish. Australia and Argentina still 7 and 8. Obviously nothing doing with those two. And then Wales, who've kind of been a little bit topsy-turvy. They pretty much finished where they started. They came in 9th on 78.09, and they finished the Six Nations 9th in 78.08. So they were lower a little while back, but that win over the Italians saw them kind of claw back their spot in 9th. So, yeah, still the jury is out on how well Wales can do back under Gatland, but they didn't get the wooden spoon. Japan, no change. Georgia, though. Georgia is one of your big gainers because they won that European Rugby Championship. They beat the Portuguese in their kind of final match. Portugal went out to an early lead, but Georgia just proved too good. I watched the highlights of it. Kind of no surprise. Georgia virtually every year wins that competition. So they are up from 75.94 to 76.23. So they have passed Samoa. That makes them the highest ranked tier 2 side. And above Italy, who is a tier 1 side. I know Japan kind of flirts with that tier 1, tier 2 status because they're a tier 1 side, but they don't have a regular comp to play in. So they're kind of an anomaly. But yeah, Georgia, they're in that weird position, man. They're too good to be in tier 2. Probably should be in tier 1, getting some more regular games, but it kind of is what it is for the moment, eh? So there you go. Congratulations to Georgia. Samoa, like I mentioned, dropped, but they obviously didn't change any points because they didn't play. Fiji, Italy drops from 12th across from the Six Nations start date. So that kind of November test where they got a win against Australia and they were kind of flying high, dropped down. So started at 75.95 in 12th, finished 74.63. Small margins, but yeah, with the Georgians winning their games and the Italians losing theirs, this is kind of the way it works. Italy against Georgia would be a cracking game right now. And I mean, Italy overall, despite losing all their games, I saw some post on social media which showed their overall points difference in 2023, while still in the negative, is no way near as bad as it has been in previous years. So the Italians aren't that far away, but the way the rankings works, narrow losses or good-spirited performances don't count for nothing. It's wins or bust. Tonga and Portugal, 15 and 16. Good to see Portugal still on the board. runners up in that European competition, like I mentioned. Below them, you've got Uruguay 17, USA 18. USA is the highest ranked team not going to the Rugby World Cup. Romania is at 19. They beat Spain in the other match in the European Rugby Championship 31-25. So Spain drops to 20th. Elsewhere, the Netherlands had a win, so they're up into 26th spot. But yeah, there you go, folks. Six Nations is done. Most of the teams come out of the tournament the same way they went in. I guess that means most of them kind of met expectations. Scotland maybe exceeded. England maybe disappointed a little bit, but as I said, still a bit of rebuilding. And Italy kind of not that much to shout about in terms of wins, but performances, I still think they will have gained a lot. Upcoming rugby, man. I mean, Women's Six Nations gets underway very soon in April, so that's good to get international rugby back, basically. And then you've got to wait until the Rugby Championship for the men's game. That's in July. Up until then, you've got Super Rugby through till June. You've got the URC, which the regular season ends in April. So then you get to the business end. Premiership a little bit later, early May. And then the top 14 kind of end of May. So still lots of rugby going on. But in terms of men's rugby, there's not much on the international front for a wee while. But yeah, as I said, Women's Six Nations is getting underway. And how England go is going to be a fascinating one. They're going to want to bounce back after losing at the Rugby World Cup. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon the teams are ranked? How would you back Italy up against the teams that are above them, like Fiji, Samoa, and Georgia, maybe even Japan? That's kind of, for me, a really kind of interesting area of the rankings. I think like the top 8 or maybe even 9, 10 on their day, there's a lot of different ways these games could go, which is great for the game. Obviously, 1 and 2 right now are looking pretty bloody strong. It's going to be also fascinating to see how the All Blacks and Springboks come out come Rugby Championship time, and also the Wallabies, man, under new management. So, yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. And, yeah, talk to you guys again soon. See you later.